Hi, everybody. My name is Megan Fannin, and I'm a first grade teacher at Our Lady of the Assumption Catholic School. Your presenters today, Mandy and Terry, have forced me to do this video. No, just kidding. They have asked me to do this video on my free will of explaining how I use the UDL principles in my classroom with our free platform that we use at OLA called Seesaw. I love to describe Seesaw as a platform for all. Now, if you're not familiar with Seesaw or you have so many more questions after this presentation that I didn't get to because I did promise Terry and Mandy I would make it short, please feel free to email me at any time. My email address is right above me. Do the Brady Bunch look. Or tomorrow or today, not really sure the schedule, presentations are going to be happening on Seesaw by one of my coworkers, Cherie Carlson. So please feel free to go to those classes to learn a little bit more about Seesaw or email me at any time. I'll be happy to answer your questions. So let's get talking about why, first of all, I use Seesaw. I use Seesaw because I can explore instructional strategies that provide effective and engaging activities in school for my students and my families. So the biggest part of why I use Seesaw is it's more than a piece of paper and a pencil. It's giving them so many more opportunities to learn in different ways. And guess what? It's all about UDL. So let's talk. UDL, the principles that are so amazing once you dive into them a little bit more, is all about learning for all. And isn't that what we want as teachers to begin with? I want to put this bullet point on this presentation because you guys might be like me, first time hearing UDL, or it's the first time your school's like, I want to focus on UDL a little bit more. So as just a classroom teacher, a couple years ago, Mandy brought in this principle, UDL, for us as a school to use. My first thought was, Mandy, you're giving me another thing to do. Already head above water, trying to make sure I'm doing everything else for the school correctly and my students, and I was a little overwhelmed. But I did take some time, and I dove into UDL, and I was like, wait, I'm already kind of doing this, especially with Seesaw. And that's what I want you guys to learn as well. Sorry, my dog's in the background. But I want you guys to understand that you are doing UDL. You just might not know it, or you just didn't know you how to write it down and how you're doing different things in your classroom. So for Seesaw is used in my classroom for engagement, representation, let me move my little video of myself, and expression. Guess what? That is the learning guidelines of UDL. Oh, a little too fast. So let's talk about engagement. Move my little picture of myself a little bit away. So engagement. The students have a platform where they have an opportunity to post things with a choice and a voice. It gives them the opportunity. Do they want to show my work? Do they want to show it in a video form? Do they want to show it in a picture? Do they want to draw things out for me? That's what Seesaw lets them do. I'll go back. Here we go. So this is a little screenshot of what Seesaw looks like when a student wants to add something to their portfolio. They have an opportunity to take a photo of something. They have an opportunity to draw. They have an opportunity to record a video. If they already did a video prior or a picture prior, they can always upload one from their iPad or their Chromebook, whatever that you guys have available at your school. Representation. I believe Seesaw promotes understanding for learning happening in the classroom for all, because you can differentiate activities sent to each student. That is the main thing I really wanted from Seesaw. As a student with learning challenges growing up at OLA, there were some times I was aware I was getting different things from other students. No fault to the teachers, but sometimes that has to happen. My learning styles were different than other students. So in Seesaw, I can send different activities to different students and they really won't know. And that's one of the bonuses that I love about Seesaw. So for Seesaw, I create different activities. Sometimes I have to give a word bank to some students. Sometimes I do a fill in the blank with 2 of the letters in a word. And then sometimes I give them a sentence and I say, go for it. And that's differentiating all the time at school. But how do you get it to the students without having each child know? Well, it's just a click on the button here in Seesaw. You just click the student that you want to send the activity to, and then they get it. They can't see anybody else's. They can't comment on anybody else's. When you click a little tab, and it is an amazing feature. Expression. I kind of got into this a little bit earlier with engagement, but students have an opportunity to take pictures, make drawings, or record. Then they take it a step further to explain their thinking. When I have a student, I'll give you a simple example of addition of making tens. If I have a student that I don't know is getting the concept or not, or is guessing, I have them create a picture, they do the equation for me, they record it. I can hear their thinking. I can see, oh, they've missed the concept, let me go back and reteach it. Or, oh wow, they do have the concept, we can move on. That's why I love Seesaw. Again, another reason why I love Seesaw, because I can see their thinking. I can hear inside their thought process. Also, you always have those students in your classroom that never raise their hand or they never want to read out loud. But in Seesaw, when you kind of give them a platform that they know that's safe and it's only between you and them, the light bulb goes off and you can hear them and you can hear their thinking when they record themselves. So here's an example of one of the activities I did at the very end of the year. We were reviewing motion. So we created some activities of roller coasters and the directions that they go to. So one of my students doesn't really talk a lot in the classroom, didn't raise their hand and tell me what roller coaster was their favorite because they sometimes don't like to speak in front of their peers, which is okay. I gave them this Seesaw activity, said, which one was your favorite? You just drag the heart to which one they liked the best and tell me why. Well, they told me which roller coaster they liked, and they said I liked the loop-de-loops. And that means I got their understanding of the concept, and I knew that they understand what was the motion by looking at the rest of the Seesaw activities. Here's some examples of UDL in my classroom. This was a choice board that I created when we were home learning last year on Earth Day. So I gave some options for the students to do. This was a week-long project for them. They had to pick 2, and of course they could do more if they want, or they can just do 2. Each one had a link where they could learn how to make it or give the directions to it. Also on the Seesaw, I was a voice recording of myself reading everything out loud. So I never had to make a first grader read this by themselves. And it was great to see their choices because some of the choices I didn't think those students would make. I didn't know one of my students would create a song about the earth, and it was actually an amazing song that they made. I didn't know that that's what they liked. They really liked the music aspect, and it was great to see. So you can also see that I said check with your parents before you pick, because some of the activities during home learning, they needed some help, like replanting an old vegetable. They can't just go to the trash and find an old vegetable sometimes. So there's a great example of UDL that I used with choice boards. And my other choice, I'm going to take you to my Seesaw activities right now. So in first grade at OLA, we do this big animal research project. We take the time, each student gets to pick their own animal that I give them a list from, and they get to pick which one they want. Sometimes I have books on them, sometimes I don't. And the books I have might be a higher reading level than some of my students are at right now. So here's an example of an animal that one of my students picked was giraffes. She was on a lower reading level than some of her friends. And I did not have a book that was about giraffes, but a lower reading level. So what I did was I created everybody their own Seesaw activity with their own animal, sent it to them. They each got a video. On hers, I was able to add another page, and it was the book that I gave her to read, but with me reading it.
Table of contents. That tells us what the chapters are called. Guess who? Big bodies.
So this way, she could take the book and she could follow along while I read it. So she's still getting the exact information that the other students are doing, but I'm helping her with some of the harder words that maybe she couldn't do or say. And here's another example. I go to my library, and here's all the examples of all the activities I have done. Seesaw has a great search feature that I just type in animal. And here's all the animal research projects that my students chose this year. And my student that picked sharks was on a higher reading level. He didn't need me to read him the book. So he got a video. And I was able to put the page that we were doing in our animal research project book on my Seesaw post as well, so that they could see what pages they were working at. I also was able to put my instructions vocally so they can hear it. So some of my students can read my directions, some of them.
Click add, find your animal, and watch the video. Write down 2 facts in your animal research project.
They could hear my directions without trying to read those hard words that they might not have known. Let's go back to my presentation. And here's another reason why I think Seesaw is great for UDL. Feedback, instant feedback. So when they submit an activity on Seesaw, it comes straight to me and I get to look at it. So here's an example of one of my Seesaw activities for measuring in math. All of this has an opportunity for the student to also listen to the instructions, not just read it. But this is one of my students that completed the activity, did a great job, was able to give them feedback by put a little emoji sticker on it. Or you could always write a comment at the end. So this teacher wrote, "What a creative new ending. I can tell that you read carefully and understood the plot of the story. Way to go." Another great feature is when you give feedback, you can also record your voice so that if a student, again, is not ready to learn those hard words that you're writing, you can always vocalize it to them. This is great for the lower primary students. I also did this in kindergarten, that the students knew that when I sent an activity back, they needed to look at it to see if I had any feedback before they could go on to a new activity. But that's how I use UDL in my classroom with my platform Seesaw. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, please let me know or let Terry and Mandy know, and they can get you in contact with me. Again, my email address is mfannin@olaschool.org. If you have any more questions, just let me know. Enjoy the rest of your sessions and have a great summer.